A natural disaster off the charts. I'm Rebecca Lieb.
I'm Jason Horton.
And this is Ghost Town.
From this earthquake, although perhaps many minor incidents, is going to be extensive.
It just felt like something hit the side of the house, and then it just started rolling and got stronger and stronger, and the house started shaking back and forth.
We're going to be talking about the 25th anniversary of the Northridge Earthquake. Ooh. So it's been 25 years. It's also, next week is the 1-year anniversary of Ghost Town Podcast.
Of what you're listening to right now.
Yes.
You're like, what's Ghost Town? This.
It's not something, you're like, oh, I thought this was a good...
You're like, I don't know, I'm just listening to all my podcasts and I'm just hear new voices.
Yeah, no, this is, it's been a year.
It's been a goddamn year.
We did it. And you mentioned that maybe if you want to message us on Instagram at Ghost Town Pod, if you have want to talk about some of your favorite episodes you like from us, maybe
or
something
least favorites.
We don't care because and I think we'll talk a little bit more about this. But when the podcast started, we had growing pains.
We were just kids.
We were just kids. Like I wasn't even 50 yet.
I know. I still had baby teeth.
I still do, but whatever. That's why we do podcasts. And, I think we felt like it was greedy to make it too long.
Yeah.
So they were very short. And that's some of the biggest complaints is how short it was.
Yes.
Especially since we do a lot of front loading of personal related stuff, which people still complain about.
Which I love to talk about.
Yeah.
I guess we should just do bonus episodes where I talk about my dating life. People don't like me swearing my dating life, my voice, my body, my livelihood, my life.
And your mind.
And my mind.
Yeah.
But Jason's okay.
yeah, it's like whatever.
Sure.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the Northridge Earthquake, and we're going to have this is going to be one of the first times I think I'm going to have my wife Michelle discuss a rare appearance. She's been mentioned. She lived through the Northridge Earthquake. Her family lives in Northridge.
This is only her 57th interesting story.
If
we're rating her interesting stories of her life.
Yeah.
It's not 100.
It's top 70.
Yeah.
It's top 70. But she grew up for the most part, in L.A., and, she's been kind of relatively ingrained in Los Angeles culture and somewhat of celebrity, and her mother and grandparents on her mother's side, and she grew up in the Valley. She grew up in that...
Classic...
Granada
Valley.
Hills, Northridge, but she was, living in Northridge. And her mother and grandparents still live in that area, so I was vaguely familiar. Like the movie The Karate Kid was about as close as I got to like that area.
Yeah.
So over the last couple of years, I really got to know that area, and of course, the Northridge Earthquake is something that we've, I heard about it. I mean, I was just sort of out of high school, maybe a little longer, whatever. But to us, I feel like was earthquake something that for you was just like, I felt an earthquake when you were living in Wisconsin?
No,
not at all.
We didn't have anything close. We had hurricanes.
Yeah, that was
stuff.
kind of more hurricanes was a little more on the hitting that coasts.
Yeah, thunderstorms,
cigarette shortages, probably right.
Definitely cigarette machine shortages.
Of 89 was brutal.
One time the Blatz Brewery shut down for like a second and people died. Yeah, it was really tough for us. Well, we had serial killers. Too.
Yeah, you had
a lot of different things.
You had it work itself out.
Yeah,
but I never. And have you been in like? Have you felt one?
I felt 2 earthquakes. One of them, I had just moved to LA and I was working at my uncle's law office. He was like doing me a favor where I would go there in my pajamas around like 8 a.m. and I was like, I looked like I was still in bed at work. And he wasn't there. He's an attorney and he's a public defender. So he was like bouncing around courts and
doing
I would
good work.
Send him. I would like send him to different courts and like make sure he knew what case he was.
But you were the face of the company at that point.
It was disgusting. But I was in the office and it was just me and these like other like really old Jewish guys. And it was like 3 old Jewish guys and me. And I never left the office because I looked like shit. And then there was an earthquake and it was like it went on for so long because I think like I understood what earthquakes kind of were like, but I didn't understand how scary they were. Like, this is a nice building in Beverly Hills, and it was shaking like it was made of fucking plexiglass and particle
You're like,
board.
nothing bad can happen in Beverly Hills.
No, I'm like, what? Over
Yeah.
the Obagi building?
No.
I don't think so. So I like left and I was in my pajamas and there were these like 3 guys in suits and they were like looking at me and I was looking at them and I was like, you're not judging me right now because we just almost died together, right?
Yeah,
I never got
shared
an
something.
answer.
Yeah.
But then I had one in my apartment one time.
There's a lot of things where, like, if you notice on Facebook, like, did you? I was like, and I feel like some people, I was like, did you really feel an earthquake, or you just want to chime in?
Why also is it important to talk about it on Facebook? So
Yeah.
what if there was one? Are people gonna be like, yeah, and you'll be like, yeah?
I think there's a lot of because I'm not like super familiar. I'm just from the research I've been doing about the relevance of earthquakes in comparison to the Northridge earthquake. There's earthquakes happening all the time that we don't feel, or some people feel it, some people don't. It's just the magnitudes change. But I the one real one that I felt was working the E channel, and it was a pretty I was like, oh, this is it. Like things are falling, and I remember like people like my boss who's pretty terrifying. I mean, she got under my desk because my desk is right outside hers, and I did not because I was like so tough, but I was just like.
You can't register it. You're like, huh?
Yeah, I'm just like, do I need to jump on top of somebody to be like a hero? So that is the only time I really felt when I was like, wow, this is
how noble though that you thought you needed to jump on top of somebody.
Yeah, I'm always ready just to jump on top of somebody. You know what I mean? To protect them from I don't know what, like True Hollywood Story binders or something like that. Yeah. Which is all there was. So much. It was like
Jesus, those are sharp.
Over 10 years ago, so there was
Yeah.
like a ton of binders like all falling out of the
If
place.
you got stabbed by one, you could bleed out.
Yeah. So we mentioned that somebody didn't know a podcast they're listening to. So, and this is not getting paid for this. Wish we were. Also, they don't need the publicity at all. They do not need the publicity. But Michelle turned me on to a podcast, and the only reason I'm mentioning this one is because we talk about LA a lot.
Yeah.
And we're going to be, obviously talking in this episode about the greater LA area, but To Live and Die in LA, which I've mentioned to you.
You have. I'm gonna listen to it after we're done with this.
Yeah, because I see Rebecca. I see Rebecca.
Jason and I have been working together.
We've been working together.
This is
working.
new.
I've been working.
Aside from our creative work,
Right.
which is what you're listening to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
The money work.
the work that is actually lucrative, which is far more lucrative at this point, maybe for Jason.
Yeah, I think I'm making like CEO money. I feel like because they just don't know what to pay me.
So I'm a producer on this television show called Brain Games, which is out December 1st.
Yeah, you might see me on it.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, maybe a couple times.
Have I showed you that segment yet?
The one with what's his name?
Yeah.
What's this? CH.
Yeah.
So I saw.
You
Michael
guys will
showed me.
see.
You'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to show that to you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, Michael showed it to me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
did.
he showed it to me.
Anyway, I have the privilege of bringing in people that I know because it's a lot of comedy for the people that we need. It's a lot of like stand-ins and game playing, and it's better if you have people that you like and are funny and fun and engaging, which our casting company is not very good at.
So I've been there for like the last on and off, like since the first time was the end of May, and up until I guess into next week.
Yeah,
at some
we'll be
point
back
it's
in
been
on
super
Monday.
fun.
Yeah,
so I've been employed.
Snacks
Plenty of snacks, but I'm on that kind of that keto thing, so like I don't eat as bring my own snacks, but I will eat the food when it's catered.
Yeah, the food is good. We had a good
good
steak today.
Yeah,
which you can get the protein.
Yeah.
meal.
Oh yeah, the protein.
But if the snacks are usually just completely garbage.
Yeah,
that's when I come in.
Yeah,
that's when I start consuming.
If you do cleanup.
Yeah.
But this podcast is when I was listening while we were working.
Good.
Well,
God, you
I
guys
say
paid to listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
I wanted. Oh God,
it's so.
We had them in for like a day rate. Like we paid them for the day, but they were only here for like 3 hours.
Oh,
everybody.
Yeah.
It's a sweet gig.
It's a sweet gig.
Anyway.
So To Live and Die in LA, pretty interesting. It's a little, I see people kind of complaining about the exploitativeness or the sensationalism, and I get that, but because it takes place in LA and it involves this, at least the first season involves the world of actors or like struggling actors and relationships. And I'm not going to give it anything away, but the location, and we talk about locations on here, you'd be like, is this relevant? Sort of. The location of where this podcast takes off, I've walked past 2,000 times in my life.
Damn.
So the chances of like crossing paths with one or more of these people, highly likely, yes, in some way, shape, or form. So that makes it, and plus it's just very well done, and I think they're coming out with season 2, but To Live and Die in LA,
damn,
super fun.
So your second favorite podcast besides this one, everybody that's listening, is To Live and Die in LA.
Yeah.
First one,
Also,
Ghost town.
to live in LA is my
To live
first
and
favorite
live?
one. Yeah.
I like to
Live and live. Yeah. It's
in
for
LA.
people that are like getting by just fine. I want to
Yeah.
read a Instagram message
Great.
because we got one and it was positive. Let me just switch to Ghost Town Pod on Instagram.com. This one is from JOERC123. You have to check out the Santa Maria Inn in Santa Maria and the Whaley House in San Diego. I used to live in San
Whaley
Diego.
House, yeah.
Yeah.
It's super haunted, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I lived in, maybe we can do a live show down there, do some
that'd be
stand up.
great. There's so much haunted. I don't know why. Why is there so much haunted stuff in San Diego?
A lot of missions, a lot of, it's an old city, settled missions, and it's kind of
Yeah.
close to Mexico. So, it's a good little epicenter for that. So that was,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for a positive comment. We'll
Yeah.
take all comments though.
Yeah.
Like we don't discriminate.
And we're going to get into the episode, not before we talk about patreon.com/ghosttownpod, 2 bonus episodes a month. And for the $25 level, we will talk about whatever your
We'll
website.
show up at your door.
Yeah.
Do you
That's
want
$30.
lunch?
That's $30.
That's 30? Okay.
Yeah. But it's a great way to listen. If a podcast of, not say our caliber, but of our listens said, hey, for $25, you can promote something on here,
Yeah.
within reason.
We'll wear whatever you tell us to wear.
Yeah. But no, maybe they just want to talk about they have a podcast and they want it mentioned on here.
You want someone's car keyed?
No.
We'll do it. Do it.
Yeah. Why is it crime? You'll only do crime for a very low amount of money.
Yeah, I am in. That's
I'm
how
talking about-
loyal I feel.
I'm talking about mentioning a podcast and you're just like people go missing all the time. That's how it happens, I guess. You're just ready
You get a double ride to LAX at any time of night or day.
just to see it.
We go there, we come back, we go back there.
Yeah.
And you make your flight.
Yeah. So patreon.com/ghosttownpod. And there's tons of bonus episodes just waiting for
Yeah,
you.
there's ripening in
This
there.
is perfect.
Aging.
We're hitting our year anniversary. Maybe you want to catch up on those. What do you call them? Those episodes?
I call them bonies.
Yep, which is
Get your bonies.
so
Your bonies they're piling up. You don't want to let those bonies pile, people. Don't do it. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't either.
and there's some really honestly some of my favorite ones are on there. I know.
They are so, dare I say, zany.
Yeah, they're really
They're-
fun.
yeah,
There's
they're-
some haunted. There are definitely some dark
Yeah.
ones, but they're usually
I also want to say that everyone at my work, which is your work too,
Yeah.
has listened to the podcast, but they all have only listened to the Canadian bus one,
yeah.
which is the darkest one.
I mean, that one is really
yeah, it's our darkest.
Why aren't they all going to Apple Podcasts and rating it 5 stars and leaving a
should.
review? Like everyone should, because you know what? Even though we've gotten some really good positive reviews and we've gotten more reviews, we're at 3.8 out of 5.
3.8. That's not right.
Yeah, come on. But here's the problem: is I think when
Let your
people,
conscience be your guide.
some people give like middle of the road things, but only give it 1 star. So there's only 1 or 5 stars
Yeah.
generally. It's like either if I don't
Polarizing.
love it. And if it's only okay, it only gets 1 star, which is really kind of like not a fair. But people can do what they want. So if you
Yeah.
don't mind going to Apple Podcast, rate with your heart
Yeah.
or with 5 stars, and leave a comment. It'd be very helpful for
I would
us.
do anything.
To your car.
do anything. I will launder some money.
Yeah.
You need someone gone? They'll be gone.
That's even
5
less than the
stars.
$25. All right, so let's talk about the Northridge Earthquake.
Okay.
We're gonna go back 25 years.
Ugh.
Which, I mean, I feel like what has happened in LA 25 years ago, 2 years previous to that with the LA riots.
Yeah, it was a really charged time.
It was a really tough time. Like, the early 90s, think about, even New York was like starting to kind of clean up. There's a lot of growing pains.
It's true.
But we are going to go.
It's true. And natural disaster, you think, we talk about things that precipitate events, like the riots, for example, like race relations, Rodney King. With something like an earthquake, it's just like, no, guess what? It just happened.
It's indiscriminate.
Yeah.
Everyone's involved, and people realize that when it comes to this, it doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have, or who you are, or what you've done. You could be affected one way or
Absolutely.
another. You can have like a very meager living situation, or like a really lavish one.
Mm-hmm.
The Mother Nature does not discriminate. But at 4:31 a.m., January 17th, 1994, 6.7 mag quake, short for magnitude. I'm already doing the lingo.
Yeah, you are. You're already an earthquakeologist?
Geographically.
Seismographer? Plate tectonically.
Acclimate.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Don't know. But I say mag because, lingo. Mm-hmm. So it hit the San Fernando Valley, so that would be the valley at large. And the reason they call it the Northridge Earthquake is that seems to be like the epicenter. That's where it was seemed like that was the center of it, although it affected not just Northridge.
Yeah.
I mean, you had San Bernardino County, you had LA County, you had Simi Valley, you had all the valleys, and LA at large was affected. But it's one way or another, whether you live there or not, doesn't matter, because not only was the earthquake, it was the aftershocks, which is really, I think, what I gather is what's really problematic. So it's like, the earthquake could be 1 second.
Yeah.
You could have 6 months of aftershocks, which is not good.
Yeah.
You don't want. I know it sounds like really cool, and like super.
Yeah.
Like I just drank some aftershock.
Exactly. You're
by
like
Axe.
I had some aftershock at recess.
So there's been a little different reporting on the amount of deaths. I've seen 57, 58, 59. Enough. Too many.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Way too many. And damage 20 billion up after all is said and done.
Wow.
To kind of to rebuild that. I was in New Orleans, and I think about Hurricane Katrina and like how they. I mean, LA recovered really well. I know. I'm not trying to compare the two, but I feel like New Orleans didn't. They made. LA is just really well funded and
absolutely.
and there's a lot of production and has all those things
exactly.
here. And that's sad, but it's true. And so it occurred on a federal holiday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, in early morning. So people are home in bed, which they're saying is good in reducing casualties. Less people on the roads, less people at work, more people in homes, and less people moving is better for that. And when my wife will chime in about her experience, which was mentioned in our live episode. Remember, we touched on that a little bit. Touched on it.
That's right. As my dad's college friend was sleeping.
Yes,
I think
yes.
we
kind of discussed that. And then they in 1971, the Silmar earthquake happened, and they did some reinforcements, to prepare for that. So that helped a little bit. When they talk about property damage, the estimation, I said between 13 and 50 billion, equivalent today 22 to 85 billion.
Wow. Can you imagine? I mean, I do think what you said before, LA is really resilient and for whatever reason, has weathered so much and has bounced back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and it's such a big city with a lot of power and influence, and I'm sure government has something to do in it. But it makes it, places like New Orleans, super resilient people, but to get everything up to 100% of what it was has not happened yet, as far as I can see. Injured more than 9,000. Displaced 125,000 residents, including my wife and her family.
Where did they go?
They went. I think they stayed in a. Again, this is going to come in the interview part, but I believe they stayed in a hotel for a while. If that changes, during the interview part, but that's what I remember. So it's an interesting story how she. If she was where she was normally going to be, we wouldn't be married right now, and I'd be single. I'd be just swiping on Tinder like crazy right now. I'd be on this podcast like, yo, what's up, ladies?
Let's not get mixed feelings about the course of history, everybody.
I think I said that in the live show, too. I was just like, I was like, listen.
No, I think we were all like, no.
Yeah, no, that's not.
Thank God you didn't die.
Yeah, no, it all worked out for me. But now I got this sweet temporary job. I don't know. Maybe,
who
who's the
knows?
boss? Not me. I'm not the boss. In LA, Ventura, Orange, San Bernardino, all affected because even if you're not living there, you know people there. You're commuting. You have a job there. Cal State Northridge campus was wrecked. So and it wasn't kind of like, oh, cool, school's out. It's like no.
It's like no, who's
bad.
dead in here?
Yeah, it's bad. So right after the initial shock, there was a 5.9, which is only slightly less as an aftershock.
Jesus.
That was a slight
Does
less.
that even count as an aftershock? It's just another
No,
earthquake.
Yeah. I guess when the first...
Technically with, like, the
when the
plates
fault
and
line, kind of whatever, shift and open, that's like the initial. And there was tons of aftershocks.
That's another thing that's really scary about earthquakes, where it's like, no, it's not done.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Not done yet.
And
no,
you don't know
it's
when
not
you're gonna
done.
feel it,
Are you
yeah.
still alive?
It's crazy. And then they were going on for months. A lot of them were, though, really small, so you didn't notice them, but they were there. That's how powerful it was. Hollywood was affected. Episodes of Seinfeld
No.
put
What?
on hold.
What?
Yeah, like a bunch of TV shows and movies they had put on hold. Universal Studios Hollywood at the time had an earthquake attraction
Jesus, of course they did.
based on the movie Earthquake. So they were like, let's not do it.
We're done.
Let's not do
We're
it.
done here. We're going to
let's
hang
do
in a
it.
hat on this one.
Yeah. So I want to talk. So with that information, also the photos of I've watched photos of retrospectives. The photos are like chilling. They're so it almost looks like just a bunch of art installations. Cars just chopped in half.
Jesus.
Things just popping out of other things. Honestly, it looks like an art installation. That's how
Jesus.
how fragile everything is and how devastating it is. Just to give you,
And the big one is on its way. I keep
well,
thinking about
we're
that too as you're talking about that.
Yeah, well, that's something that I have.
Boy.
So I'm going to put a little bit of this into context. So the biggest one, it's not the big one. You're talking about the big one.
Yeah, I'm talking about the big one that's on its way.
The
Like the rapture of earthquakes.
one of the original big ones is, and this is a little confusing, and I'll say why. So March 27th, 1964, a 9.2 mag earthquake, 78 miles east of Anchorage, Alaska. And that's the most powerful earthquake to hit North America and the second largest earthquake ever measured.
Wow.
Yeah. To give you an idea. So to give you an idea of just and here's the thing. So there's a class in the magnitude. Just to put some perspective. This is great. Not a good word to use. Great is an 8 or more.
Yeah.
Major, 7 to 7.9. Strong, 6 to 6.9. Moderate, 5 to 5.9. So this Northridge one is only strong.
Wow.
It's a third. It's like 3 tiers down. And when you look at photos and we'll put some on our Instagram, you'll be like, how could it be? How could it be worse? And it can be. Light is 4, 4.9. Minor 3, 3.9. So you want to talk about the big one?
Yeah, I do. I want to know. What should I do?
Guess
should I
how many
prepare?
times bigger the big one is supposed to be compared to Northridge? How many times?
3 times.
44. 44. Now, mathematically, I don't understand because that's supposed to be an 8.
That's just like we all just like become dust. It's like a black hole earthquake. Where you're just
there's
like,
no.
everyone's done.
There's no.
That is comforting though, because the suffering, like the aftermath of all of this stuff, is really the devastating part. So it's just like we're all done, and at least make it go quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, let's hope.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. 44.
And that would, and I don't know how, because it's the big one is 7.8 or higher, right? So that's about one. You know what I mean? Like one magnitude higher.
What is that
than,
called? What is that classified as?
Well,
just
the thing is, that's
apocalypse?
above major, but this other one was 9.2, so it still wouldn't be the biggest one. But I think it's because where it hit. Helicopters.
Yeah, helicopters.
It's like, are we already?
Yeah,
in,
it's already happening.
It's already.
It's like already pictures falling down.
There's always
My car
helicopters.
is in half, but that's for different reasons altogether.
It's not,
Like, I don't
has
wanna
nothing
talk
to do
about
with
it, yeah.
what you're making it work though. So I don't really. I think maybe because of where it would hit, because off the coast of Anchorage is different than off the coast of Manhattan.
Yeah.
The direction, you know what I mean, like inland. So. And that would be striking along the southern San Andreas Fault. So that movie San Andreas, which I did not see, I don't think.
That documentary?
The one The Rock kind of documented for us. Where he just I think he just arm curls buildings from the helicopter.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah, I think that's what he does.
Exactly. He just takes whole communities on different giant platforms of earth, and he takes them and he moves them.
Yeah.
So his hands.
Yeah, it's
and
easy.
his feet.
So I guess big quakes like this occur on the
Quake Hunter.
On the southern.
Is that our new podcast?
Big Quake Hunter.
We're
looking for them.
We go hunt big quakes.
Yeah.
We do a whole a limited series.
Very
podcast.
limited because we don't ever find any.
We can only do major quakes.
Yeah.
Or good.
Yeah.
What's the other classification? It's like
minor, light, moderate, strong, major.
Yeah, we do minors and lights.
Yeah.
Every once in a while we do a major.
Yeah. Well, that major one, I don't think that's 7.9. Just
Oof,
give you the numbers.
I'm still not understanding the magnitude.
They are said to occur on the southern San Andreas fault line every 45 to 230 years. So every 45 to 230 years, big quake. Uh-huh. The last one was 161 years ago.
Oh,
so
that's too close.
We're due, I guess. We're due.
How often do you think about this? I mean, before you did research on this episode.
Not very.
I don't think about this at all.
Yeah. So.
But do you think we'll have the technology to see it coming?
I mean, maybe, but would and then do what about it?
And then go somewhere else.
Oh,
leave.
Yeah.
Evacuate.
Mass exodus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we might. That's I feel like our one saving grace that we.
Unless I have an audition, then I'm showing up.
Yeah, you're like I will be in Santa Monica at 4 p.m.
Yeah, I don't care whether
coming
traffic
from Atwater.
Yeah, I will be.
I
there.
want to sell Clorox.
Yeah, please. These stains won't come out, and the whole business
World behind you, just like fucking falling. Apart.
Yeah,
they're like, can you do it again with like a Russian accent?
And I was like, well, speaking of Russian accents,
yeah.
Michelle, her family is from Russia. Her mother and father from Russia, grandparents Russia, all speak Russian. Michelle speaks Russian. Mm-hmm. She is going to give a first-hand account.
Not in Russian.
Not in Russian. In Los Angeles,
yeah,
in LA,
right. That's right.
She has a mix between a mix between a Valley accent and a Canadian accent. She's born in Canada,
yeah.
So she's kind of a mix between those, and I always make fun of her because the way I speak is perfect and very
really?
appealing.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. So we're going to hear from Michelle, but before that. How about a little break?
How about it?
Yeah, let's take a little break. Okay, so start with the night of the earthquake.
Well, I was at home, but I was supposed to be at a birthday party, and at the very last minute, they moved the birthday party one night up. So it's interesting. The entire fireplace where we were sleeping collapsed the very next day. So if we had all been at that sleepover, we probably would have been dead. Because her house ended up being not condemned, but one step above condemned, where they had to move out for 2 years and the roof collapsed in that place. So I would have been dead. The night of the earthquake, my grandmother was actually in town from Canada, and she was on the other side of the house. We had a guest room, and about 2 hours before the earthquake, my brother woke up with like a very odd stomach ache. He wasn't really sick, but he was sick enough to get up out of bed and wake up my grandma. And then, of course, the earthquake started.
And he doesn't do your brother didn't do that.
No,
routinely.
he wasn't like a sickly child.
So it wasn't very common for him to do that.
No.
So maybe there was something.
It was a weird serendipitous sort of thing where he got up in the middle of the night, went over to where my grandmother was staying, and the earthquake happened about an hour and a half later. And when we went back to his room later, we noticed that the bookshelf that was facing his bed, probably about 2-3 feet away, it hadn't been, securely fastened to the wall like they'll tell you to do now, for earthquake safety, but it jumped basically off of its platform and onto my brother's bed. So, he would have been severely hurt too, because he was only probably 7 years old at the time. So, so we had a couple weird twists of fate where if we would have been where we were supposed to be, we'd have been dead.
Yeah. And we would be having this conversation right now.
No.
I'd be, like I said, I'd be single and just
You'd be single.
swiping left, swiping right, like crazy, I guess. So what was, I guess, what was the condition of where you were staying after the earthquake?
Well, the earthquake happened, and well, first and foremost, we had like a house in Northridge, literally above the epicenter of the earthquake, and it was a nice like ranch style home. We had a pool. Everything is bungalow style. No upstairs, no downstairs. But I remember my mom yelling at me from my bedroom, and I loved to sleep as a kid. Like, you could not get me up before 1 p.m. So I thought she was just harassing me. And of course, she wasn't. The entire house was rumbling. I saw them in the doorway. I ran to the doorway. We left. And the condition of the house was not as terrible as some people that I knew. But we still had to do extensive repair. Like, there was our fireplace in the living room had part of the roof. And I'm not talking the roof had collapsed like you could see this moon and the stars, but part of it did collapse. The pool cracked, all the water came out. Like, it was, we had to move for 2 years to have it repaired. And
I imagine you knew a lot of people that had similar situations or worse.
Yeah, pretty much everybody in our area was affected in some way or another. Most of us displaced. There was like not a lot of people I knew that didn't have like some sort of horrible damage to their house where they had to be living in either a rental or an apartment. Like, me and my brother shared a room. Like, some very formative years for me. From the time I was probably 12 to 14, we shared a room in an apartment in Studio City because we didn't have anywhere else to go. And for the first, I don't know, like 4 to 5 months, it was my stepdad, my aunt, grandparents, my mom, my brother, and I staying in a 1-bedroom condo in Hollywood. Because that was what, what was going on.
Was there, just kind of jump around, is there, did people have insurance, earthquake insurance then? Or they were prepared?
A lot of people didn't. And FEMA came in and I think that was one of the first times that I remember hearing even what FEMA was. And it didn't do everybody as dirty as they have been lately. But we actually had earthquake insurance, surprisingly, which is why we were able to expedite what we were doing. But I knew people who were displaced for like 4 years.
Did you, did you know anybody that personally or whatever that, I guess worse than property damage? Like anybody?
No, you know what? The really not fortunate, but one of the things about this natural disaster was that it happened in the middle of the night.
Right.
And even though freeways collapsed and there were parts of parking structures that had collapsed, there was an apartment building in Northridge that did have structural damage and some deaths. Yeah. But considering the magnitude of what happened and how many people are in that area, we were surprisingly lucky.
Because if it happened at 5 p.m. on a Thursday, it would have been,
imagine all the people on the freeway at that point.
Right.
Like when part of the 118 collapses, that's like fucking catastrophic.
Now, did that affect school for you? Like,
yeah, I was in junior high, which like to miss school was my fucking pleasure, quite frankly.
Right.
But yeah, they turned our school, and I went to a small private school in the Valley, but they turned our school basically into like, I don't want to say refugee camp, that's hyperbole.
Yeah.
But it was no regular classes, and it was somewhere for the kids to go while the parents were figuring out their shit and like where to put everybody and what to do. And that was for 2 weeks. That was for 2 weeks where they just kind of drop you off and figure it out. And yeah.
Was it hard to? Do you recall being? Because I've just looked at a lot of pictures, and I mean, like I said, it's they almost look like art installations, like cars that are literally in half, bridges that are completely disconnected, buildings that are like essentially inverted. Like, to look at them, they just look like something like that were made that way, but it's because of how intense it was.
Sure. I mean, it's a very intense earthquake. I didn't personally see any cars split in half or anything.
Yeah.
The valley, like geographically, is very flat. Right. The bridges, I think, were mostly like from freeways and stuff like that. The one thing I did see when we were driving away from our house, because at that point there were no cell phones really. No, there weren't. There were no cell phones. I barely had a pager. And So to get hold of people like my step grandparents and we just had to get in the car and go. So what I do remember is that a couple blocks away, as we were driving away, I saw flames, and that's because the gas main exploded. So there was a literal fireball happening on that street. But, the response to everything was pretty quick, all things considered. So, it could have been much worse than it was for those people. But,
I mean, kind of on that, because now with internet and being able to communicate and things like crowdfunding and GoFundMe, I mean, because now if there was somebody that really had it bad or whatever, you could kind of assemble in a way a lot quicker and get the information out. But you kind of answered that, like you just had to.
Well, yeah, we got in the car, and we just kind of made the rounds with our family. We went to my aunt's apartment first. She was in Studio City, and fortunately her apartment was okay. I actually remember that was our second stop after the 1-bedroom condo. We traded places with her. She let us, because hers was a 2-bedroom. That was around the OJ trial, by the way. Yeah. And after that we went to the grandparents, and we just had to make the rounds. And I remember it was the only time that I've ever lived in Los Angeles where I ever actually saw the stars in the sky. First time in my whole fucking life.
Yeah.
I've never seen them since, and I won't ever see them again. Right. But they were there.
Do you recall any particular buildings or structures that were severely damaged and then either gone or fixed up, just in a kind of
nothing.
I know the Cal State Northridge, had a lot of damage.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people and a lot of companies that had buildings, like the Northridge Mall, for instance, used the opportunity for minor or kind of medium structural damage to renovate. And I think that's what CSUN did too. Definitely there were windows and cracks everywhere. But besides the apartment building and the freeways, I didn't really see anything crazy chaotic. And they were so quick to take care of whatever was visibly damaged, either to reduce it to rubble or to start construction. I don't think they wanted it to kind of linger. It was kind of a scary, like a visual aftershock, if you will.
Was there kind of measures taken, we're going to do a lot more, we're going to bump up the earthquake safety in school, or...
I mean, what can you do, though?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know.
It's it's one of those things where it's you just have to be prepared. And even in that instance where we were displaced and we couldn't return to our home, we didn't get better at earthquake safety.
Right.
It's just one of those things. Although I will say, before our house got damaged in the earthquake, we had a very tragic Dusty Rose, gray kind of 80s nagle print setup, and then we got bumped up to that 90s overstuffed Laura Ashley setup. So we won.
So I know the aftershocks were there's a lot of them for months, and that's usually the scare. I mean, from what I know,
it's probably the scariest part of an earthquake is the aftershocks. My brother and I were pretty young. I was probably 12 years old. He was 7. They would, the parents and the grandparents and everything, for probably a couple weeks after the earthquake, everybody was just always out, and we didn't have school. If they couldn't drop us off, then we were just alone in this condo. And I don't know if you remember, on TV, nobody watches TV anymore, but TV, they had the emergency broadcast system with that fucking terrifying beeping.
Yeah.
And we were already terrified because the aftershocks would just come in waves. It was the creepiest thing ever, because you're sitting there trying to get over what happened or just to enjoy yourself, and all of a sudden this swaying happens, and the swaying accompanied by an emergency broadcast system thing is the only thing scarier is the Unsolved Mysteries song.
Yeah.
It's just the scariest thing you can imagine, and it just comes in waves over and over. It's relentless.
And because you don't know when it's gonna come, or for how long it will last.
And it doesn't matter what size earthquake you're in, how many aftershocks you experience. I mean, I'm LA native. I've been through tons of earthquakes, you never get used to it. And the aftershocks are always going to be the scariest part of it. Because they can be big.
Yeah.
You know, if an earthquake is 6.5, those aftershocks can be 4.2.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
And how long do you think, how long do you feel like they lasted to a point of you noticing?
You know, time is like non-existent when these things happen. Like, I thought the earthquake went on for 5 minutes and it went on for like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
The aftershocks come in waves, so like they seem like they go on forever.
Yeah.
Like, and then like if it's a rumble, then wherever you're at, the house might sway.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, like, nobody wants to be in a swaying house. That's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, you know, you might have, people might have a little bit of PTSD from.
For sure, and we were like 12 and 7 years old, and we're just clutching each other on the couch. We're just trying to watch, like, I don't know, I Love Lucy or whatever the hell is on.
Yeah.
Judge Judy wasn't on there. But.
Oh, that's what you'd have been watching.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you didn't go to that
you're
sleepover.
not.
Well, it remains to be seen.
Whoa.
Okay, so that was, I know. So she survived.
Living through that. God, I was just fucking around in Wisconsin, going to summer camps. What am I doing?
Yeah.
She was
I was attempting
refugee.
college. I think I was beginning to attempt college then for maybe the second. I was probably dropping out of college already. Then being like, why do that? I was like, I'm gonna be really successful in entertainment. So 25 years later. Boom! Doing a podcast.
Hi, hello.
Well, hello.
Yeah.
Stealing snacks from the work.
Taking your wife's story for your own profit.
Yeah. She actually, I had to talk her out of it. She's like, can I do it in ASMR?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She was just going to be like, snip, snip,
Yeah,
snip.
she's like, shh.
She should have.
She should have. I talked her out of it.
Yeah.
That would have to
That
be
would've
like
made
that's Patreon.
That's Patreon stuff.
But I don't want to end this on like making jokes
about a tragedy.
About a tragedy. So all right.